We want to let people who send their waste to Malaysia know that we need your help. People from USA, your waste been illegally sent to facilities. This is a human right infringement. Why you think that we are better than you to manage the waste you created? Just because we are poorer? It's just because you don't see? Just because you don't feel our pain?
Pua Lipang lives on the front lines of the plastic pollution crisis, a once naturally green landscape now marred by countless plastic dumps, many of them illegal, and home to some of the most plastic-clogged rivers in the world, which in turn drown our oceans in waste. This is where tens of thousands of tons of plastic waste that most Americans think is being recycled get sent every year.
People from USA, your waste threaten the health of my family, my children, and also destroy the future of my people.
ABC News set out on a groundbreaking investigation, deploying tracking devices hidden inside plastic bags. It's a journey that took us from impacted communities here at home.
Their trash is in the air!
To Pua's backyard, 9,000 miles away.
We don't want our country become dumping site.
And exposing how America exports its plastic waste abroad, causing devastating pollution all across the world, sometimes involving smuggling.
I believe that the trackers that put in by ABC is evidence of smuggling.
Our reporting also giving us a never-before-seen look inside the mysterious and complex channels that export our plastic waste to other countries.
Nobody seems to want to answer questions.
Trying to get answers from the biggest retailer in America about how 3 of our trackers ended up overseas.
These are the pictures of the facilities that your plastic ended up in Indonesia, that's in Malaysia.
And challenging those with the power to make change.
It sounds like you're willing to accept putting limits and capping the production of new plastic products.
Not necessarily.
It's an all-out effort to get to the bottom of why America is sending so much plastic waste abroad.
We're all complicit in this, but it's about all of us asking for a better way to live.
Our journey began over 18 months ago, when ABC News, along with 9 of our affiliate and owned stations across the country, assembled bundles of recyclable plastic bags, each containing metal tracking devices superglued inside.
I got 4.
Our team's fanning out across 10 states.
This is Northside Walmart here in Austin.
Okay, here's one of the drop-offs.
Dropping them off at major retailers which have thousands of stores with recycling bins labeled for plastic bags. We deposited 46 bundles in all and monitored each tracker's location for months. And we watched as the vast majority never pinged from a plastic bag recycling facility, with many ending up at landfills or incinerators.
I mean, it looks like a building-sized blowtorch.
But we still had questions on several trackers we reported on last year, 7 of them, including 4 that last pinged at places that said they were involved with recycling plastic bags. But after digging through public records and making additional calls, we learn all 4 facilities are likely either dumping here in the U.S. or exporting the plastic to recyclers abroad. Like this facility in New York City that wouldn't answer any of our questions.
We have been emailing. All we want to know is where you send the plastic bags that are earmarked for recycling. Like,
that's the question.
Well, we've been asking her for months and months. We just want to talk to people
I don't have
and just get some.
I'm sorry.
We had a hard time getting answers from the recyclers we spoke to about where exactly they send the plastic abroad. Perhaps because shipping plastic waste is highly controversial. The other 3 trackers that we had questions on revealed some of the inner workings of that multi-billion-dollar-a-year trade. Those 3 had been dropped off at Walmart recycling bins in different states and ended up overseas on the other side of the world in Southeast Asia. 2 of them pinged in Malaysia, not far from the hometown of Pua Lepang.
We have about 30,000 residents here, surrounded by forest, surrounded by river, but now it changed.
Malaysia became one of the top destinations for the world's plastic waste after China shut its doors to the trade in 2018, citing its harmful environmental impacts because so little of it could actually be recycled.
A lot of recyclers from China, they came here. And they found Malaysia is such a heaven to run this illegal factory.
Since 2018, dozens of plastic dumps and smokestacks have appeared on the outskirts of town. And Pua says most are from plastic recycling facilities without a license.
Then we start to find out, wow, we're surrounded by so many illegal factories. So after we start our investigation, we found that those plastics just not belong to Malaysian.
For years, Pua and her team, the Kuala Langat Environmental Action Association, filed complaints against these facilities polluting her community. Over the years, she's gotten hundreds of illegal recycling centers shut down and received death threats.
In my country, corruption is something very easy to happen and very difficult to eliminate.
She says her efforts are not nearly enough.
Smuggling problem is not going to stop if the plastic waste trade continue as a legal in the international level.
To show us what she's up against, Pua takes our team to a plastic recycling facility just outside her town. It's one she has reported to authorities multiple times.
Okay, just outside the facility, we found a lot of rubbish.
Directly beside the facility, she shows us a dumping site that's on fire. Pua says that she and many in her community have asthma, which she developed 2 years ago. She suspects that, in part, it's due to her advocacy work that frequently brings her in close proximity to the toxic fumes coming from burning trash piles like these. And today, she's taking no chances.
When I visit this place, I really feel sad. It's product of Australia.
It isn't long before she finds imported plastic and electronic waste
This is Europe,
from the US and all over the world.
Italy, Ireland. This one is UK.
Inside the facility, filthy plastic can be seen piled up in the open air, and directly behind it, Pua finds what she says are more signs of illegal dumping, where plastic has become part of the very fabric of the soil.
You see the clouds there? They're full of plastic chips, plastic shattered plastic. So this is how they dump their waste. And then this is just in the backyard of the factory. And more, you see, this is all mixed with plastic waste.
Satellite images obtained by ABC News appear to show this dump site expanding over the past 4 years.
In Malaysia, we have very poor monitoring system. Pollution actually monitored by the industry itself. We have a broken system. We are not as capable as your people think that we can handle your waste.
This facility does not appear to have a license to import plastic waste, according to a 2023 list of license holders we obtained from a Malaysian parliament member. Pua says it's a violation that is rarely punished.
Smuggling in Malaysia is so easy.
When we tell Pua about our plastic bag trackers that last pinged not far from her hometown, she tells us one tracker could be part of an alarming pattern.
I was very headache about how I prove there is a smuggling happen in Malaysia. How to prove it, put in the tracker.
One of our trackers last pinged from a facility on the shores of the Langat River in Malaysia. It does not appear to have an import license and raises questions as to why our plastic bag tracker is even there in the first place.
I believe that the trackers that put in by ABC is evidence of smuggling.
A recent UN report says missing licenses and smuggling are among the primary tactics for illegal waste shipments. There's no way of knowing exactly how our tracker ended up here.
This is a proof of what I worry, that this actually happening and is quite serious.
The company manufactures new plastic bags and film, sometimes from recycled material, and advertises itself as a responsible corporation committed to protecting the environment around it. But Saravanan Kumar, whose family has fished here for generations, tells us that is far from the case.
Masa dulu kecil, umur saya lebih kurang dalam 15-18 tahun macam tu. Kita datang sungai, memang nak cari lauk untuk kita makan. Kalau kita hanyut jaring satu kali, kalau ada selangat dia punya grup, satu kali kita turun 2-3 keping, lebih kurang kita boleh dapat 1 tong penuh.
Now, plastic waste dots the shores and fishing nets are often empty.
Kita nak pergi cari makan pun tak boleh. Memang tak ada barang dah. Sudah hancur barang. Ini sungai sudah hancur. Ya, itu kita punya pendapatan.
Saravanan says the facility is discharging plastic-laden waste directly into the river.
Kita dulu nampak hari-hari dekat sungai. 2 hari sekali.
He offers to show it to us. In one location he takes us, wastewater appears to be flowing directly out of the facility and into the river.
Boleh nampak, kita boleh nampak dia punya plastik. Kita boleh nampak dia punya plastik. Kadang-kadang kita sini pun sungai semua boleh nampak rasa dia punya plastik hancur tu, boleh nampak. Hancur punya plastik, banyak yang timbul-timbul atas. You rasa lah ikan tu makan dia macam mana? Ikan dia tak tahu apa makan mah, dia pergi makan saja.
Behind the facility we find another discharge canal, this one an unnatural orange. It's also leading to the river.
Memang marah, lagi satu sedih. Sedih apa? Kita punya ikan semua hancur, mati. Kita rasa ikan tu memang sedap, tapi sekarang rasa ikan hati takut. Kita nak takut apa? Kita makan nanti anak kita pun kena sakit. Kita punya generation nanti hancur. Kita rasa memang takut lah.
The Malaysian government wrote to ABC News saying that they take the illegal plastic waste trade issue raised by ABC News very seriously, and that they will certainly analyze and investigate, and any misbehavior will face severe consequences. Our other tracker that landed in Malaysia, we found that one at a facility that does have a license to import plastic from abroad. But to Pua, a facility being properly licensed is still no guarantee against harmful pollution to her community. She says too many companies use the cover of night to pollute.
At nighttime, they like to do melting process. And melting process is the process that causes air pollution. And at nighttime, there is no monitoring or no supervision.
Another one of our trackers deployed at this Walmart in Kingston, New York, later moved to a recycling facility in New Jersey known to export plastic waste. Based on our analysis of shipping data, it was likely loaded onto a cargo ship that would cross the Atlantic, round the southern tip of Africa, before finally, 3 months later, it landed just outside 3 affiliated plastic facilities in Batam, Indonesia, and was never heard from again. As of 2020, 2 of these facilities were reportedly under investigation for illegal dumping in the drainage ditches directly behind them, as seen in this local media report. This year, our team filmed those ditches and discovered shredded plastic coating countless leaves and blades of grass. Signs of possible illegal dumping. We reached out to every one of the facilities in Southeast Asia where our trackers pinged. None of them responded.
It is irresponsible and unethical to be exporting plastic waste to other countries that do not have a recycling infrastructure set up to handle this.
People from American, you created too much of your waste that is a problem now. So please work together. Stop sending out the waste from your country to other countries.
Back in New York City, we decided to take Pua's plea to one of the biggest retailers in America, to the place our investigation started.
To address those very real issues.
Walmart.
These are the pictures of the facilities that your plastic ended up in, and Indonesia, that's in Malaysia.
Okay,
Are you
well,
aware that
let's
this
get
is
to it.
happening?
We wanted to ask Walmart what they knew about the Southeast Asian facilities where 3 of the 19 plastic bag trackers we dropped off at their stores ended up. But after months of attempting to arrange an interview, they declined our request. So we decided to attend the Reuters Responsible Business USA conference, a gathering of senior leaders from some of America's largest corporations, including Walmart's Kathleen McLaughlin.
I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Walmart.
After the panel, we approach her to ask some questions about the trackers that went abroad.
Hi.
I'm Matt Gutman with ABC News. How are you?
Good.
We are doing a story about plastic that was earmarked, plastic bags were earmarked for recycling by Walmart
Yes.
and ended up as plastic waste in Indonesia and Malaysia. These are the pictures of the facilities that your plastic ended up in Indonesia, that's in Malaysia.
Let's get time to talk about this. I'd love to learn more about.
Well, we have a room actually right here if you would come.
I'm sorry.
It would be.
Let's talk about it.
Well, we've been trying to for over a year now, and we've been flatly rejected by your team.
Okay.
So I wonder if you would go on the record because this is
Let's
important,
follow up with the mon
and there are people whose lives are being impacted by the environmental fallout by images like these. I was also fascinated by your panel just now, and you mentioned net zero, but, if I may, just one more question.
I'm sorry,
but you didn't mention recycling at all. Is that because it's not working? Is that because plastic recycling at Walmart is not working?
No, and I would say go on to walmart.com. We have a super detailed disclosure around recycling and waste management and what's happening there. So I would invite you and others to go look at that disclosure.
After a few more minutes, McLaughlin suggests we should email her to arrange a formal interview.
If you want to get into it, I'm happy to meet with you and go through what we're doing.
Can I ask one more question?
I have to go. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
As they suggested, we reached out to McLaughlin and her team to set up that interview. They initially agreed and set a date, but canceled a few days before we were scheduled to sit down, asking us to email our questions instead. Walmart did not answer any of our specific questions and instead provided a statement that said in part, "We strive to do the right thing, and while our bag recycling program isn't perfect, it does provide access to recycling for millions of customers, and we are committed to continuously improving our recycling." And they pointed to enhanced contracts that explicitly require companies they work with to ensure and prove that eligible materials collected through their program are recycled to the maximum extent practicable. Walmart didn't answer our questions, but we kept looking for answers about how some plastic bags dropped off at their stores were moved across the world. And that led us to one of the busiest ports in the United States.
Right here where these massive cranes are is the Port of Virginia, just outside of Norfolk. And just beyond this fence line is a shipping dock where a plastic bag that we had tracked from a recycling bin at a Walmart in Kansas was likely shipped aboard a container ship 9,000 miles away to Malaysia. Now, that is just a tiny sample of a tidal wave of plastic waste that the U.S. ships to developing countries every year.
These ships carrying plastic waste could be a major source of greenhouse gas emissions. An ABC News analysis of shipping data estimates just the shipping of the plastic waste alone has pumped more than 100,000 metric tons of CO2 into the atmosphere over the past 3 years.
We've called on some of the big shipping companies to stop shipping waste plastic to other countries, because they can turn off the tap of these plastic exports.
Only one prominent global shipping company called CMA CGM heeded that call, making a public voluntary pledge in 2022, shown here in their promotional video, to stop carrying plastic waste altogether.
It's a big step. What prompted the company to take it?
We have 12 million tons of plastic waste floating around in the oceans. So we have a problem. And the question was, are we enabling that problem in any way? And the answer was possibly. So the decision was made and today we do not carry it.
But according to shipping data provided to ABC News from S&P Global Market Intelligence, a widely regarded data analytics company, CMA CGM, had hundreds of shipments that S&P labeled as plastic waste on board their ships since their pledge to stop. When we cross-referenced the times and places two of our trackers had pinged from, it led us to believe they had been a part of those shipments.
It shows that the only ships moving the plastic waste that fit our trackers and the timelines were all CMA CGM vessels, the Otello, the Americo Vespucci, and the Lapérouse. Those are your ships.
Those are our ships, that's right.
You've banned the shipments of plastic waste.
Yeah.
How would they end up on your ships?
Yeah, that's something we'd have to look into, Matt, and be happy to do that with the specifics.
Okay.
After investigating the data we provided to them, CMA CGM told ABC News that nearly all the shipments marked as plastic waste by S&P were coded in their system as items other than plastic waste by their customers.
We don't actually see what's inside the box.
How can you ensure that a company doesn't just slip in, you know, a few tons of plastic waste in a container that you would never be able to inspect anyway?
That's difficult. There's no physical inspection of what's inside the container unless customs happens to hold it up for some reason. So there's a level of trust that's there.
But after speaking with multiple experts and closely reviewing the data, we found some customers or middlemen may be misleading CMA CGM, and the company may have unwittingly transported at least 350 shipments of plastic waste since their ban, mostly to Malaysia, including 2 of our trackers.
What would you say to the companies that are actually using your ships to transport the plastic waste?
Don't.
So you may have missed it, but you're asking those companies not to ship plastic waste, period, full stop.
That's right.
Would you stop doing business with those companies?
Absolutely.
The S&P data does show a significant drop in CMA CGM's plastic waste shipments compared to before their ban, but still far from a total stoppage as the company had pledged. A recent UN report on the waste trade finding a pattern of waste exporters lying to shipping companies about the items being shipped to bypass regulations, and governments around the world turning a blind eye to the issue, allowing plastic waste to be smuggled into countries with lax border enforcement.
There are some international laws that govern this, but they're really not enforced. And as we're producing more and more plastic in the United States, we're going to see more and more exports to other countries.
Some critics argue that the plastics crisis can be traced in part to trade groups like the Plastics Industry Association, located here in Washington, D.C. They've been lobbying heavily against limiting plastic production. We asked for an interview with them as well. They declined and did not respond to our written questions. Nina Butler has researched and advised the plastics industry for years on recycling. She says the time has come to focus on the root of the problem.
We're so hyper-focused on recycling when it needs to be upstream. We've reached a point of a runaway train in terms of overproduction of plastic.
How much influence does the plastic and chemical industry have over the U.S. government?
I think some of the greatest influence of anything.
It's why the stakes couldn't be higher for an historic global plastics treaty just on the horizon, where members of the United Nations hope to address what they call an epidemic of plastic pollution by the end of 2024. Jose Fernandez is negotiating on behalf of the U.S. delegation.
Where do you find the consensus in the upcoming talks?
The challenge will be to bring some pretty disparate groups together. There are some groups that believe that we should basically keep producing what you produce and recycle your way out of the problem. We actually think you need a much more realistic and a much more practical approach.
It sounds like you're saying something kind of novel for the U.S. government. It sounds like you're willing to accept putting limits and capping the production of new plastic products.
Not necessarily. Countries that want to do that are welcome to do that, but that's not going to get you the kind of universal membership in an agreement that we're aiming for.
But the vast majority of other countries are actually fully okay and on board with producing less.
Well, I don't want to get into the numbers.
So far, the U.S. has refused to join the coalition of so-called high-ambition countries seeking to limit plastic production.
Where is the actual goal? What benchmark do you aim to meet?
So the benchmark is reduction, is to get to a place. You're not.
That's a pretty nebulous term,
well,
reduction.
But
and how is it determined, and by whom?
Well, that's part of the negotiations.
That means producing less plastic.
That means producing less, but it is different from what some countries will not agree to, at least today, is setting caps.
That leaves a lot of wiggle room, and essentially seems like it's a toothless measure.
I disagree.
The U.S. has already come under fire from the international community for being one of 5 countries that has refused to join the world in curbing plastic waste exports through the Basel Accord, which placed stringent restrictions on plastic waste shipments from rich countries to poorer ones.
Why can't the U.S. be a leader in this field?
We have been a leader.
We're not even a signatory of the Basel Convention amendments on plastic waste.
I'm not going to get into that. This is not part of my portfolio.
Fernandez's team later clarified that the Basel Convention and U.S. plastic waste exports do, in fact, fall under their office's responsibilities, as shown on their web pages.
I just wanted to show you the video from a woman named Pua in Malaysia.
People from USA, do you know that your waste is harmful and is threaten the health of my family, my children,
and also destroy the future of my people, my generation. This is totally something that you should not do. And your government should immediately stop you from export this waste to us.
That is a tragedy. If you're asking me if the U.S. has engaged in waste disposal practices that are abhorrent, yes. But here's your basic problem, which is you have a global problem that requires a global solution.
While world leaders try to find a solution to this challenging issue on the global stage,
what happens if we have 500 people stand out to fight?
Pua wants her fight to be your fight too, because she believes for her community and for our planet, everything is on the line.
I must win in this battle. People from America, we are betting to stop this waste trade because we only have one planet. If I don't stand up to fight, family member, my friends will be killed. But if I stand up to fight, I have chance there.